Yeah, he gave me some stronger nights. That's what they gave me.
All right, Rabbi, say good morning. Good morning. Let us begin. We have a lot to do today, Baruch Hashem. As literally today is Hazman Katzar v'Hamalacha Meruba. A lot to do, not a lot of time. But Emir Hashem, we will get done what we have to do. Begin by thanking all of our sponsors. Thank our Hakar Satov, to express our Hakar Satov to our Talmud Torah sponsor. For ER, anonymous sponsorship with Hakar Satov to Hashem for all of the blessings He has bestowed upon us, and for a Fushlim for Devora Leah Bas Chai Rivka. May we be zochet to witness the imminent coming of Moshe Mehira B'Yameinu. Amen. To thank our week of learning sponsor Shmuel Rabbi Karapkin in commemoration of Shmuel's father's yahrzeit, Leonard Karapkin Lipa Ben Yecheskel HaKohen Zichron Livracha. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama will have an aliyah and the family a nechama. With that, let us begin. So today's daf is Pei Vav 86. We are picking up absolutely nowhere near the beginning of Pei Vav, but Emir Hashem, we are picking up on Pei Hey Amud Aleph 85a. Yes, you heard that right, 85a. Thank you. And we are picking up 2, 4, 6, 8 lines up from the bottom. Rav Yosef, you both incredible Gemara today. Rav Yosef Arba'in Tanisa Va'akruya Lo Yamushu Mipicha. So Rav Yosef fasted for 40 days, and ultimately again they broadcasted to him a message in a dream. Lo Yamushu Mipicha. Torah will never leave you. Torah will never leave you. So again, in the merit of those fast days, he fasted for the purpose of knowing that spirituality would not depart from him. Good. The Gemara says, Yosef Arba'im Tanisa Achrini. He fasted another 40 days. Sorry. Good. He fasted another 40 days, and what happened? Yosef Arba'im Tanisa Achrini. He went ahead and he fasted another 40 days. Va'akruya lo yomush mipicha umipi zaracha. He fasted another 40 days, and what did he see? That the Torah said that the dream in the pasuk he saw, Torah will not depart your descendants. So after the first 40 days, again the message that was broadcasted was Torah will not depart you. After the second set of 40 fast days, Torah will not leave your descendants. Yosef Mea Tanis Achrini. He fasted another 100 days. So the Gemara says, Asa va'akriyu lo yomush mipicha o mipi zaracha o mipi zera zaracha. He fasted another 100 days, and what the message that was broadcasted in the dream, ultimately again, that Torah will not depart you, your children, or your grandchildren. I will say, again, tying into yesterday's daf, Amr Mikan ve'ilach, Lo tzarichna. After this now, I am assured of spiritual continuity. Torah machzeres alachsanya shala. So I will say, it's really part of yesterday's Gemara that remember, once a family is zocha to have Torah in it for 3 generations, then as we saw in yesterday's daf, we ended off with the Katzker yesterday. Torah machzeres alachsanya shala. As the Katzker said, it's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee that all future generations will be steeped in Torah, but it is a guarantee that Torah will always make its way back to that particular mishpacha. And therefore, again, once he saw this in the dream, then ultimately he felt his spiritual avoda was accomplished. Rabbi Zera, ki have a most incredible Gemara. Rabbi Zera, ki salach la'aradi Yisrael, Yosef mea ta'anisa, Delishtachach Gemara Bavla'a Minei Kihechi Delo Nitradei. Both say this is wild. Rabbi Zera, when he went up to Eretz Yisrael, he davened. Both say, listen to this. He davened that he should forget Talmud Bavli in order to be able to learn Talmud Yerushalmi. Right? Again, we'll say, Talmud Bavli and Talmud Yerushalmi are very, very different. And so the wording is different, the setup is different, the conceptual constructs are different. So it's incredible. Rabbi Zera, who was an incredible Talmud Chacham, fasted 100 fast days that he should forget Talmud Bavli, so that he should have a clear mind to be able to learn Talmud Yerushalmi. Rashi says over here, Delo Nitradei, Kisha'ala la'Eretz Yisrael, Lilmod mipi Rabbi Yochanan v'Amoran sheba Eretz Yisrael, Lo hayu b'nei machlokes, v'nochin zelazeh, Kishman, Kidarmina v'Sanhedrin, Umiyashvin esatamim below kusho sipirukin. So Rashi understands over here that in general, the derech of Bavel was like learning through questioning and contradicting. In Eretz Yisrael, they had a very different model. They were very calm with each other, right? They were very deferential to one another. So he felt that he had to almost like forget what he knew, both in concept as well as in approach, in order to be able to maximize his experience in Eretz Yisrael. I will say there is a tremendous Musar Haskell in this, that sometimes in order to be able to move forward in life, you have to be able to forget or to undo a lot of the things that you've done already. It's like what Shlomo HaMelech says in Koheles. It's incredible. He says, Eis lintoa ve'eis la'akor natua. There is a time to plant, and then there is a time to uproot that which you have planted. Right? So we'll say that's the ace parak, right? So Shlomo says a time for this and a time for that. Now usually when Shlomo does that is they're opposites. Right? For example, there's an ace shalom and there's an ace milchama. There's a time for peace and then there's a time for war. So if you were writing this pasuk, you would say there's a time to plant. What's the opposite of planting? Harvesting, right? Eis lintoa ve'eis liktsar. It's not what it says. It says eis lintoa ve'eis la'akar natua. There's a time to plant and there's a time to uproot that which you planted. Shalom Aleich is saying is that sometimes the greatest avoda in life is I plant something, I work hard on something, I'm vested in something, and then I realize, you know what? This is not the right derech. This is not the right thing. This is not the right approach for me. And to be able to have the inner strength to uproot that very thing that you spent all of the time planting, that's an incredible avoda. But sometimes we'll see, you know what ends up happening in life? There are moments where I know I'm going down the wrong road. It's the wrong path. I don't mean sinful or anything like that. Just like, it's not the right approach. I don't have the right midos. I don't have the right personality traits. My hashkafas in life are not the right way. My priorities in life are not the right way. But, what's the but? I've been doing this for so long. I'm so vested. I'm so planted that I don't really have the inner strength to do the about face that I need to do. Shlomo Melech says, there's a time to plant, and then there's also a time to uproot the things that you planted. And they are both equally important avodah. So Rabbi Zera, when he was going up to Eretz Yisrael, recognized that if I'm going to be successful, I kind of need to uproot some of the things that I've done in Bavel, some of the ways I behave in Bavel, so even some of the Torah of Bavel, I have to change around to clear the way to accomplish even more going forward. It's such an incredible Gemara. Yosef Mea Achrinasa, Lishkav Rabbi Lazar Bishnei. V'naflin iluye mila de tzibura. He fasted another 100 fast days that Rabbi Lazar shouldn't die during his lifetime. Rabbi Lazar shouldn't die during Rabbi Zera's lifetime. Why? Rabbi Lazar was the one who handled communal matters. So Rabbi Zera davened for the longevity of Rabbi Lazar. Why? Because if Rabbi Lazar would die, then communal matters would fall upon Rabbi Zera's shoulders. And what happens when communal matters fall on your shoulders? You have absolutely no time for learning, or for anything else for that matter, right? So the Maisa, it's incredible. So Rabbi Zera davened that Rabbi Lazar should have a nice long life. He should continue to take care of the communal matters, and I'll stay in the base medrash. Incredible. And also Rabbi Zera davened that the fires of Gehenna should have no effect on him. Now this is incredible. So the Gemara says, Kol tlasan yom and havabadik nafshe. Every 30 days, Rabbi Zera would check, would kind of do like a self-test, that he was not subject to the fires of Gehenna. How would he do that? So listen to this. This is pretty wild. Shagar tanura salak v'yasa b'gaveh. So he fired up an oven, like one of these walk-in ovens, and he would go and sit in it. And if the oven had no impact on him, he felt that was representative that the fires of Gehenna would have no impact on him as well. So the Gemara says, Yom achad yavu be'rabbanon einei v'echrichu shakeh. What happened? One day, the rabbis kind of got wind of what he was doing, so that he was walking into the oven. They kind of cast an eye upon him. It looked a little arrogant, looked a little haughty. And what happened? He ended up singeing his legs. More specifically, shaker, his thighs. So the Gemara says, "V'karolei." After that, they called him Katin Charech Shakeh, the short guy with the singed thighs. I don't know. It doesn't really seem like a very imaginative name. I felt like they could have done better with that one. But all right. But Lamaisa, that's what they called him. Amrav Yehuda Amrav. My dichsev ki ha'isha chacham, mi ha'isha chacham, v'yavin es zos, v'asher diber pi Hashem elav yagida. Ama avda haaretz. So the pasuk over here is talking about who is the wise person who could understand why Eretz Yisrael was lost. A reference to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash and subsequent Galus. What was the reason for the loss. So the Gemara says, Davar zeh, Amr Beis will say, Pei Amr Beis 85b. Davar zeh, Amru Chacham v'lo Pirshu, Amru Nevi'im v'lo Pirshu, Ad shepirshu HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzmo. Everyone was trying to figure out what was the reason why we lost Eretz Yisrael. Everyone's trying to figure it out until HaKadosh Baruch Hu came along and explained it himself. Shneimar v'yomer Hashem al azvam es torasi asher nasati lifneim. Why did we lose Eretz Yisrael? Why did we lose Eretz Yisrael? Because we left Torah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav shelo berchu b'Torah b'tchila. What does it mean that we left Torah? So we'll say famous Gemara. Why did we lose the Beis Hamikdash? Because we did not recite Birchas HaTorah. We don't have to say Berachas Torah. I will say now there's a lot to say about this. Rashi points out over here that what does it mean that we lost Eretz Yisrael because we didn't say Berachas Torah? So Rashi has a phrase. He says, "V'chivan de lo mevarchi galya datayhu she'ena matana chashuva lahem." So I will say the whole yisod of Berachas Torah is a twofold yisod. Number one, it's a recognition that Torah comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just like I make a bracha before I drink my cup of coffee, because I recognize that it comes the apple, that it comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So too again, when I make a bracha before Torah, that bracha represents that I recognize that Torah comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But what a bracha also represents is a spiritual preparatory act. And this bracha represents the idea that I recognize that what I'm about to do is incredibly important, and I can't roll into it without any preparation. The idea that they didn't make Birchas HaTorah before they learned represents they didn't really appreciate the greatness of Torah. And when you don't appreciate the greatness of Torah, ultimately one comes to take it for granted. One comes and over time not only take it for granted, but even trample over its precepts. So the lack of Birchas HaTorah, the lack of recognition, A, that it comes from Hashem, the lack of recognition that B, it's so holy that it requires preparation, that lack of appreciation ultimately led to a degradation or decomposition of Torah standards, which led to the erosion of an entire societal fabric, which then led to the destruction of Beis Hamikdash and loss of Eretz Yisrael. Incredible. So the Gemara goes back to Amar Rav Chama Ma'id Chsiv. What's the meaning of the pasuk that says, "Believe novon tanuach chachma ubekerev ksilim tivada." Believe novon tanuach chachma. What does that mean? In a smart, literally again, in an understanding heart, wisdom will reside. Say tamid chacham and tamid chacham. This refers to a Torah scholar, son of a Torah scholar. Ubekerev ksilim tivada. Zet tamid chacham and haaretz. And literally again, in the hearts of the foolish it will be known. This refers to a tamid chacham who's the son of an am haaretz. Amar Ula said, Hainu Darmi Inshi, this is what people say, Astira Bilegina Kish Karya. Both say this is a great phrase. So Ula says, this is what people say, when you have one coin in a container, it makes a lot of noise. As I both say, that sometimes the people who make the greatest amount of noise are the people who have the least amount of value on the inside, right? Because what happens when the container is filled up with coins, when you shake it, it doesn't make a lot of noise because there's so much in there. But yet again, you have a container with one coin, rattle that around, and mamish again, it makes a lot of noise. Sometimes the people who make a lot of noise are those who have the least amount of value contained within. Profound Gemara. Use that as you need it. Katan v'gadol shamu v'aved chavshi me'adonav. So I will say, what is the meaning of the pasuk? That literally again, katan v'gadol, literally the small one and the great one, shamhu. Shamhu, the sham is the grave. Both the katan and the gadol end up in the grave. Ve'eved chavshi me'adonav, and a slave becomes free from his master. What's the meaning? Atuli adin and the katan v'gadol shamu. Do we not know that both the katan and the gadol end up in the grave? What does that mean? What's this beautiful Gemara? Ella kala maktin asmal divrei Torah ba'olam hazeh nase gadol olam haba. Rabbi say anyone who accomplishes, who rises, who gets to a level of humility through his Torah in this world becomes great in the world to come. In other words, Rabbi say Torah could do two things. Torah could feed an unhealthy ego, or Torah could make me recognize how much more I have to accomplish, how much more I have to do, and therefore engender a sense of humility. Whoever utilizes their Torah to achieve a level of humility in this world experiences greatness in the world to come. Say first wide line, Pehem Beis 85b, and whoever goes ahead and makes himself an eved, like a servant in Torah in this world, say what a beautiful Gemara. If you make yourself a servant to Torah in this world, you experience unbridled freedom in the world to come. What an incredible idea. This world is meant for servitude. so that we can experience freedom in Olam Haba. So beautiful. Reish Lakish have a Metzia ma'arta d'Rabbanan. So we'll say Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish have a Metzia ma'arta d'Rabbanan. So we'll say Reish Lakish had an interesting practice. He took upon himself the following idea. Reish Lakish would outline graves. Now he did this, and for Kohanim, right? That Kohanim should know where to go, where not to go. So he specifically outlined the graves of Rabbanim. Took this upon himself, like grave preservation for the Rabbanim. So he was trying to find the grave of Rabbi Chia, but he could not find the grave. He just couldn't find the grave of Rabbi Chia. So the Gemara says, so Chalash Adaite, he was very upset, like he didn't know why am I not Zocha to find the grave of Rabbi Chia. Amar Ribbono Shel Olam Lo Pilpalti Torah Kamoso. He says, Ribbono Shel Olam, have I not discussed, literally have I not engaged in Torah discourse like Rabbi Chia? In other words, why am I not able to find his grave? Yazas Abaskal Amra Lo Torah Kamoso Pilpalta, Torah Kamoso Lo Rivatsta. Both say this is incredible. You've spoken as much Torah as Rabbi Chia. You know what the difference is? You have not disseminated as much Torah as Rabbi Chia. Both say this becomes a theme that we see over and over and over. When it comes to Ruchnius, Rabbi say it is not about amassing it for the self. Or I should say, one has to amass personal Ruchnius, but only for the sake of being able to share it with others. That's my avoda. Take your Ruchnius, take your Kedusha, and pay it forward. The Gemara goes weiter. Ki havu minsu Rabbi Chanina Rabbi Chia. This is incredible Gemara. When Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Chia would go ahead and argue in the base medrash, they had a disagreement about a particular sugya. Watch this. Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Chia. Bahadi didi kaminasni. You're arguing with me? You're arguing with me? Chas v'shalom. Imishtach tarmi Yisrael mahadronalam mepilpulei. So listen to this. So Rabbi Chanina would say to Rabbi, right? Can you imagine? They're in the base medrash. They're arguing about a particular topic. Rabbi Chanina would say to Rabbi Chia, you're arguing with me? Do you know who I am? Right? If Torah would be forgotten from Klal Yisrael, I could reconstruct the entirety of Torah from my own discourses. Right? He was trying to say, stop arguing with me. Both say, sometimes like you're in an argument with someone. This happens in capital learning also. These statements sound arrogant, but they're not meant to be arrogant. They're almost meant to say, come on, stop, why are you arguing with me? I know what I'm talking about, right? Even if Torah were to be forgotten from Klal Yisrael, I could reconstruct it from my own discourses, from my own shiurim. Rabbi Chia said, Rabbi Chanina, you're arguing with me? The avdi Torah lo tishtachach me Yisrael. I have ensured that Torah will never be forgotten. In other words, Rabbi Chanina, you're saying if Torah were to be forgotten, we could reconstruct it from your discourses. I'll tell you one better. I have ensured that Torah will never be forgotten. How can you ensure that? Rabbi says a beautiful Gemara. Maya vidna. So Rabbi Chia, what did Rabbi Chia do? Azilna v'shadina kisna. Number one, Rabbi Chia said, I planted flax, right? And then I grew the flax, I harvested the flax, I made the flax into nets. With the nets, I captured deer. With the deer, I slaughtered it, tavi. I fed its meat to orphans. And I used the hide, I used the skin of the deer to write for parchment. And I wrote various scrolls. What did I write? And I wrote the 5 chumashim, each chumash on a different scroll. And I went to the city. And I taught 1 chumash to 1 kid. Right? I gathered 5 students. I taught each student 1 chumash. Umasnina, Shisa Inuki Shisa Sidre, and I wrote the 6 orders of the Mishnah, 1 order per scroll, and I taught it to 6 different kids. Va'amarna lahu. So I'll say, so now what did he do? He taught 5 students Chumash, each one a different Chumash, 6 students a different Seder of the Mishnah, and he said, Chevra, va'amarna lahu, adahadarna va'asina akru ahadadi, va'asnu adadi va'avdi le'letardol t'shachmi Yisrael. And I listened to what I said. I said, now, Chevra, each of you students, each of you know a chumash, each of you teach the chumash you know to the other. To the other. Each of you who learned the Seder of Mishnah, take the Seder you learned and teach it to the other. And in doing that, Rabbi Chia said, I ensured that Torah will never be forgotten. And I will say, there is so much enormity in what Rabbi Chia did. I will say, but this idea that what Rabbi Chia did understood, The eternality or continuity of Torah can never rest with one person. The job of a leader is to always ensure continuity. So what Rabbi Chia did is I took the Torah, I taught it to the next generation, and I empowered them to teach one another. And in that, we ensure that Torah keeps on being taught and Torah keeps going forward. It's incredible. I will say what he also did is something amazing. Chaim Shalavis discusses this idea that why did Rabbi Chia need to plant the flax himself, make the nets himself, catch the deer himself? I will say, because at the end of the day, if you want continuity of Torah, every step of Torah has to be b'kedusha. Everything has to be with holiness. The yesod of chinuch is not just to teach your kids Torah. The yesod of chinuch, right, of education, is that every step of the educational process has to be done with kedusha. As we spoke about yesterday a little bit, the home has to be kedusha. The parents have to conduct themselves kedusha, right? The principal, the rebbe, the teachers, everything has to be done with kedusha. Because if any step is not done with kedusha, then the process is flawed. It doesn't mean it can't produce results, but the process is flawed. So Rabbi Chia understood, if you want to produce Talmidei Chachamim, even the flax that's going to create the nets, that's going to catch the deer, it's like a chagaja, that's going to produce the parchment, all of that has to be done b'kedusha. Not only that, remember again, after he caught the deer, what did he do with the meat? What did he do with the meat? He fed it to orphans. Why? Because we're supposed to say excellence in Torah also requires excellence in chesed. To be a complete Jew, you have to be excellent in your Torah, you have to be excellent in your chesed. You have to take the very deer that's going to be used for the parchments to create the scrolls for learning. That meat has to go to orphans. If you don't have chesed along with your Torah, then the Torah will not endure. And if you don't have Torah along with your chesed, then the chesed is going to be incomplete as well. We could spend years on these Gemaras. I will say, I'm not even. It's not even the tip of the iceberg what I'm giving you. So Gemara says, "Haynu da'armi Rabbi kama gedolim maser Rabbi Chia." This is what Rabbi said when he said, how great is Rabbi Chia? Amar Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, afilu mimar. So Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi said, is Rabbi Chia even greater than you? So he said, Amar Le'in, he said yes. He said yes to Rabbi. Afilu me Abba, is Rabbi Chia even greater than my father? Then Rabbi Yossi, now remember again, his father is Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi, now the beautiful part about these Gemaras, by the way, is we also know family trees. Who is Rabbi Yossi? Rabbi Yossi was the son of Rabbi Lazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Right? Says he even greater is Rabbi Chia, even greater than my, and remember again, we learned Rabbi Yossi's life story, right? Rabbi Yossi started out like not good, right? Like not good. Like I was going to say, living like in the brothels, like literally again living a life of immorality. So as great as Rabbi Chia is he greater than my father? Amrulei chas v'shalom lo tehei kazos b'yisrael. Rabbi Yossi's on a different level. I will say, Rabbi Yossi, who spent the first years of his life in immorality, in decadence, Rabbi Yossi, who turned his life around and became even as great as Rabbi Chia is, Rabbi Chia doesn't hold a candle to Rabbi Yossi. It's incredible. Amar Rabbi Zera, Emesh nearly Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina. So listen to this. Rabbi Zera said, last night, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina appeared to me. He appeared to me, right, in a dream. Amarti lo, eitzel miyata takua. Tell me, who are you sitting next to? In the yeshiva Shalmala, in the celestial yeshiva, who are you sitting next to? Amar eitz Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan eitzel me. Who's Rabbi Yochanan next to? Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai eitzel me. Eitz Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chanina eitzel me. Eitz Rabbi Chia. But can you imagine this? This is the yeshiva Shalmala, right? The celestial yeshiva. Can you imagine walking in? It's incredible. So the Gemara says, eitzel me. Rabbi Chia. Amarti. So the Gemara says, eitzel me. Rabbi Chia. I'm sorry. Rabbi Chanina eitzel me. Eitz Rabbi Chia. Amarti lo. Rabbi Yochanan eitzel Rabbi Chia lo. Why is Rabbi Yochanan ex Rabbi Chia? Amarti li ba'asar de zekukin denura ubiurin de isha man ayel barnafcha lekamon. So literally again in a place of lightning bolts, in a place of torches, will the son of the blacksmith come in there? In other words, as great as apparently as Rabbi Nachman was, his place wasn't by Rabbi Chia. Okay, so the Gemara says as follows: Amarav Chaviva Ashtoi li. Amarav Chaviva Ishtoi li Rav Chaviva Bar Surmiki Chazi Humirabanan Dahavishchiach Elio Gabe. First, listen to this. So now Rabbi Chaviva Rav Chaviva told the following story to Rav Chaviva bar Surmiki. Right? There was a particular Talmid Chacham who was always visited by Eliyahu Hanavi. To the Tzafra Havesh Shapira in Enei, Ula Arta Damyan Kidemakilin Benura. And so as Talmid Chacham, in the morning his eyes were fine, but by the evening his eyes looked like they were singed. So the Gemara said, Amrile, my high. So Tim, what happened to you? Amrile Eliyahu. Eliyahu said to me, I said to Eliyahu, Achvili Rabbanon Kisaki L'Mesifta Derakia. So Talmid Chacham said to Eliyahu, I want to see the Talmidei Chachamim when they ascend to the Yeshiva Shamala. Show me the image of the Talmidei Chachamim ascending, going up to the Yeshiva Shamala. Amar li bekulam asas l'stakol lebuhu lebar minehurka de Rabbi Chia to l'stakol be. So Eliyahu said to his Talmid Chacham, okay, I'll let you see, but on one condition: you cannot look at the throne of Rabbi Chia. Apparently, again, the Talmidei Chachamim sit on thrones as they go up to the Yeshiva Shamala. You can look at everything, but you cannot look at the throne of Rabbi Chia. Okay, Amrale. So the Gemara says. So what happened? My simanahu. So Eliyahu says to Talmid Chacham, how will you know which is the throne of Rabbi Chia? Bekulu azli malachi kisalki v'nachsi lebar me gurhaka Rabbi Chia deminafshi sali v'nachis. By all the other thrones, the malachim take the thrones up and down. Rabbi Chia's throne moves by itself. So the Gemara says, listen to this. Lo matzai lo okma anafshe istakili behu asu trei botiti dnura umachyu alahu gavra v'samenaihu le'einei. So the Talmid Chacham said, I couldn't resist. I know Eliyahu Navi told me not to look, but I could not hold myself back. I looked at the throne of Rabbi Chia, and literally again, like two bolts of fire came out, and they blinded me. Lamachar azli ashteche ama'arta. The next day I went to daven by the grave of Rabbi Chia. Amina masneisa demar masnina v'stai. So Talmid Chacham said, Rabbi Chia, I need my eyes to be able to study your Torah. Give me back my sight so I can study your Torah, and I was healed. Incredible. Eliyahu havashchiach b'mesifta de Rebbe. Both say, watch this. So Eliyahu used to always come to the yeshiva of Rebbe. Yom Achad Reish Yarchava. One day it was Rosh Chodesh. Was it? But just imagine that statement for just a second, right? So Eliyahu Hanavi used to come to the yeshiva of Rebbe. The Gemara just writes, I came to the yeshiva of Rebbe. What happened? One day, Yom Achad Reish Yarchava. One day it was Rosh Chodesh. Nagale v'lo asa. So Eliyahu Hanavi was late. It was 8. So apparently even Eliyahu Hanavi, right? At time, right, shows up a little bit late. So the Gemara says, what happened? So the Gemara says, Amrle, so Amrle, my time anagale lamar. So say, by the way, get ready for this. Rebbe says to Eliyahu Hanavi, why are you late? So both say, so the next time someone gets a little bit of a harassing, right, text from me, don't say, come on, lay off, right? Again, if Rebbe could give a little bit of musar to Eliyahu, right, why were you late? Which I both say, seems to indicate something amazing, that one really, if Eliyahu Hanavi gets a hard time for being late, let's say, and Eliyahu Hanavi, I would imagine, has no shortage of excuses about what he was involved in, right? But Lamaisa, it's a good musar, right? Let's say, if something is important, be on time. Because if I'm not on time, then just indicates that it doesn't hold the same level of importance, right? We know for important things, we're always makbid to be there when we need to be there. And I will say how, right, timeliness or lack thereof with something demonstrates the regard in which you hold that particular. Of course, there are extenuating circumstances. I'm not getting into that, right? But lamaisa, it's important to understand how you show. So I will say this is why, again, coming late for davening. It's not just coming late for davening. I'll say just understand. If you're late for davening, you are broadcasting to all those around you what davening means to you. It's the same way. If you had a business meeting and you ran in 15 minutes late, 20 minutes late, again, other people around the table are going to be like, clearly you're not taking the deal seriously. If you were taking the deal seriously, you would have been here 5 minutes early. So we don't mean to do it. But when you walk in late to tefillah, what you're broadcasting is, this is not that important, because if it was, I would have been here, if not a little bit early, at least on time. I'm late for learning, I'm late for davening. Again, we don't mean to broadcast these messages, but it's important to understand that is the non-verbal communication we are emoting about things for which we are late. An incredible Musar. So the Gemara goes weiter. Amrle, so it's going to be interesting to see what Eliyahu Navi's excuse is. Amrle, adu kimna li Avram umashine adei umatzli umagnine le v'chin li Yitzchak v'chin li Yaakov. So what does Eliyahu Navi say? Every single morning I have to wake Avram Avinu up. I have to help him wash his hands. He davens, and then I lay him back down. So I just want to point out, we could spend literally a whole day, a whole shir just on this Gemara. What does this mean? Eliyahu Navi is saying, listen, I help the avos get up in the morning and be able to go ahead and daven. So therefore, again, that's why I'm late. The Gemara didn't have to do this for Avram, for Yitzchak, and for Yaakov. And therefore, again, I'm late. So Eliyahu, why don't you wake them all up at once? The Bava says incredible. Sarvi takfi berachami umaisile lemashiach below zmanei. Wow. Because Eliyahu Navi says, I can't. Because if Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were to daven at the same time, then it would bring Mashiach. It would bring Mashiach, even though it's not the right time. So the instructions I have is to wake them up successively. That's why I'm late. Incredible. I will say, so by the way, it must have also been, again, when you bring the story together, so why wasn't he late every day? That's why the Gemara introduces that it was Rosh Chodesh. It was Rosh Chodesh. So apparently, again, there was Musaf, there was Kriyas HaTorah, there was Halal. I'm sure they do a Karbach Halal, the others. So there's no Shaila. Right? So I'll say, so therefore, again, it took a longer time. So because it took a longer time, that's why he was late. Incredible. Amrale, v'yesh tugmasa ba'olam hazeh. Tell me, is there anyone? So what obviously what Eliyahu Navi was saying was that the avos have this tremendous koach hatfila, this power of prayer. That if they were to daven together, you understand what this means? That if they were to daven together, they would be able to bring Mashiach. They'd be able to bring Mashiach through their tefillas, even though it wasn't yet the ripe time for Mashiach. So Rebbe asks, is there anyone in this world who has that power of prayer? Amrale, yeah, Ikar Rabbi Chia Banav. Yep, Rabbi Chia and his sons. We'll say constantly, we keep coming back to Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia and his sons. So I'll say, watch this. So the Gemara said, Gazer Rabbi Tani. So Rabbi decreed to fast this. Rabbi wanted to test this out. He wanted to test this out, the power of Tzilah of Rabbi Chia and his sons. So what does he do? He declared a fast day. Achsinu Rabbi Chia Ubanav. So he gathered Rabbi Chia and his sons to daven. So Amar Mashiv Aruach v'nash bazeka. Rabbi Chia said Mashiv Aruach, and the wind began to blow. Amar Morid Agashem uva'asa mitra. He said Morid Agashem began to rain. Kimata l'meimer mechayim mesim. So Rabbi Chia was about to get up to the bracha, right to the phrase mechayim mesim. Ragash alma. An earthquake began. Amri Barakia, Man Gali Razia Ba'alma. Who gave away my secrets in this Baruch Baruch? Who said, who told that Rabbi Chia and his sons have the ability to bring Mashiach even though it's not the right time? Amri Eliyahu. So again, I will say they said it was Eliyahu. Eliyahu gave away the secrets. Asyuhu Eliyahu, Machyu Shisin Pulsi Dinura. So we'll say, so literally again, they brought Eliyahu to the Beis in Shalmala and they lashed him with 60 lightning rods. Also, idmile keduba dinura al benahu v'tardinu. So at this point, Eliyahu Hanavi walked into the shul where they were holding the tefillah gathering, and he appeared as a fiery bear. I'll say, and when there's a fiery bear that shows up, you find the nearest exit, right? So Lamaisa, they dispersed. The tefillah gathering was dispersed, and that was the end of that. I will say, by the way, just incredible, right? Incredible, just that imagery of the avos, right? That every single morning, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Eliyahu comes, knocks on the door, helps them out of bed, brings Negel Vaser to them, they wash, they daven, and then they lay back down. The imagery is so profound. Okay, let's go right there. Shmuel Yarchina, Asiyed Rabbi Hava. Shmuel Yarchina, that was his name. Yarchina, Rashi points out over here, he was called Yarchina from Lashon of Yareach or Yerach, which means month. He was an expert in calendrical matters. He was also a physician. He was Rebbe's doctor. So what happened? So the Gemara says, Cholosh Rebbe be'enei. So Rebbe had some type of eye ailment. Yesterday we saw about Rebbe's stones, right? And we'll see about other illnesses of Rebbe. Amar le imli l'chas sama. So doctor said, Shmuel said, no problem. I have an ointment for you, and I'll put it in your eye. Amar lo yachilna. He said, I can't do it. I can't have it put in my eye. I'm just too squeamish. So asher lecha mishtar. Fine, let me apply it by your eye and it'll go in. Amar lo yachal, I can't do it. Have a mosiv lebe gufsa the samni tu si beisadja v'issi. So we'll say, so what happens? So instead, what did Shmuel do? Interesting. He put the ointment underneath Rebbe's pillow, and apparently, again, Rebbe was able to get absorbed into Rebbe's eyes through the pillow. Fine. So the Gemara said he was healed. Rebbe wanted to give Shmuel smicha, but somehow like it never worked out. Never worked out. So Rashi points out either it never worked out that just there were always circumstances coming up, or remember again, smicha requires a beis din. They can never gather the beis din. It never worked out. Amalei lo litztar mar. So Shmuel said to Rebbe, don't be upset. L'didi chazi li sifra da Adam Harishon. I've seen the Sefer of Adam Harishon. Now we'll say Sefer of Adam Harishon is literally a book of ancient wisdom that has certain prophecies in it. It's certain nevuah. So this is incredible. So I don't know who has the Sefer of Adam Harishon, where that is, how you access that. I don't think it's on Sefaria, right? I'm not sure. Right? But Lamaisa, he said, don't worry, I saw it in the Sefer of Adam Harishon. Eviksiv bei Shmuel Yarchinoi. Shmuel was a top of Pevav. Today's daf. Excellent, right? Good for us. So what happens? The Gemara says, follows, and what does it say in the Sefer of Adam Harishon? Shmuel Yarchinoi Chacham Yiskri. He's going to be called the Chacham for Rebbe lo Yiskri, but he'll never be called Rebbe. He'll never get smicha. Never get smicha. Va'asu de Rebbe al yado, but he will heal Rebbe. So the Gemara says, so ta Rebbe Nasan. So the Gemara says, sorry, tehei Rebbe Nasan, sof Mishnah. So we'll say, so now, once the Gemara spoke about the Sefer of Adam Harishon, the Gemara tells us other stuff that's written in the Sefer of Adam Harishon, which is what? So the Gemara says, so tehei Rebbe Nasan, sof Mishnah. Rebbe and Rebbe Nasan will be the end of the Mishnah. In other words, they will be the last Rabbanim in the era of the Mishnah, and the codifiers of the Mishnah. Rav Ashi Ravina, sof Hora. Ravina Rav Ashi, they will be the codifiers of the Gemara. V'simanach ad avo amikdashi alavina lacharisam. Rav Kana ishtoili Rav Chama bar barte dechasa. So Rav Kana said as follows: Rav Chama, the son of the daughter of Chasa, said to me the following: Rabbi bar Nachmani agav shmada nach nafshe. Rabbi bar Nachmani. So what's the Rabbi bar Nachmani is Rabbi. Is Rabbi. So ultimately, again, the Gemara says, Rashi points out over here, he was the one who often argued on Rav Yosef. So Rabbi Nachmani, he died because of persecution. In other words, he died because of the pain of persecution. What happened? I will say, watch this. So they started speaking ill of Rabbi Bar Nachmani, of Rabbi, in the house of the king, in the palace. So we'll say, what do they say negatively about him? There's this guy, there's this Jew, Rabbi. And what does Rabbi do? For 2 months out of the year, right, 1 month during the summer or during the spring, and 1 month during the spring, and 1 month during the summer or the fall. Ultimately, again, he prevents the Jews from paying taxes. Now, what does that mean? What it's referring to is that in Nisan and Tishrei, people would often go to Rabbah in order to learn, right? In Nisan to learn the halachas of Pesach, and in Tishrei to learn the halachas of all the Yomim Tovim. As a result, they were not home. Because they were not home, when the king's tax collectors would come to collect tax money, they couldn't collect. So they said to the king, there's this guy, Rabbah, who's preventing taxes from being collected 2 months out of the year. But the way they framed it was that it was a shtach against the king. He's actively preventing people from paying taxes. So the Gemara says, Shadru pristaka de malka basrei v'lo shtachach. So they sent an officer to arrest Rabbah, but they could not find Rabbah. Azal va'asam pombedisa la'akra me'akra la'agma me'agma l'shchin mishchin l'tzfira l'tzrifa la'ina demayim me'ina demayim l'pombedisa or bepombedisa ashkechei. Okay, so we'll say, so he fled literally again from place to place to place to place until he was ultimately found in Pompadisa. Okay, so Gemara tells a story, one of the stories when he was on the run. So Ikla parstika de malka lahu ushpiza de rabba krivu de rabba. So we'll say one time the officer of the king came to the same inn that Rabba was hiding. So Rabba was on the run. He checked into a particular inn, and it just so happened that the officer of the king came into the same inn. What happened? Krivu tachal kamei vashkua trekasi. So the officer is seated there, and they're serving him. They bring a table before him, and they give him 2 cups of wine. And ultimately, again, then after the 2 glasses of wine, they remove the table. His face turned backwards. I will say, now what is that? So remember again, we've learned this Gemara. The Gemara talks about the detrimental effect of zugos. There's this concept that doing things in pairs somehow opens you up or subjects you or puts you under the dominion of shadim. And all kinds of negative things could happen. So the guy drank 2 cups of wine, that's a pair, right? And therefore, halacha l'maisa. Therefore, again, he went ahead and something happened to him. He was under the influence of shadim. So Amrulay, my novidlay, Gavra Demalku. So the innkeepers are obviously very scared because if the king's officer dies in their place, right? Your Yelp ratings go way down right after that. Right? So Lamaisa again and subjects you to a whole variety of other potential negative things. So what happens? They said, what do we do? Amr Luhu. So what happens? So Rabba's there. Now obviously Rabba's hiding from this guy. Amr Luhu, Kreva Tacha Lekame, Bashkiyu Achad Kasav Dayuel Tacha Mikameva Lissi. No problem. Put the table back, give him another glass of wine, that'll take it out of Zugos, now it's 3 glasses of wine, he'll be fine. Sure enough, they did this, and Baruch Hashem, the guy was healed. Amr, so what's say? After this, the officer says, Amr, made the Yodana de Gavra de Kabaina Hachahu. So I know that this guy, Rabbi, who I'm looking for, I know he's here because I know that it was clearly someone great who came up with this remedy, and so I know the guy that I'm running after is looking for. So the Gemara says, Ashkeche Amar. So he found Rabba. So he found Rabba's hiding place. Good. He says to Rabba like this, Amar, Azil Nemeha. So the guy says like this, Rabba, I'm not bringing you in. I'm going to leave this place. Even if they would kill me, I will not reveal your whereabouts. However, Vinagidi Minagdina Le Maglina. But I have to tell you, if they torture me, I'm going to spill it. Right? In other words, if they kill me, okay, I could withstand that challenge. But if they torture me, I'm just saying, I'm going to reveal your whereabouts. Very fair, very fair. Asiula Kameh. So I say, so what happened? So Asiula Kameh. They brought him before. So what ends up happening? So they end up torturing the guy, right? They found Rabba. So the king found Rabba. They put Rabba, the Tarki Bava Ba'anpei. So they put Rabba in a chamber and they slammed the door shut in the chamber. So they imprisoned Rabba. Okay. So Rabba davened, and a wall of the prison opened up, and he was able to escape into the swamp. So I will say, again, I just want to point out, there's so much in these stories, as I will say, that how often in life do we find ourselves literally, again, imprisoned in a situation. And sometimes those situations, I cannot do anything. Literally, I can't do anything to extricate myself from this prison. So what do I do? I throw myself onto HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I will say, sometimes, when you throw yourself into the loving embrace of the Ribbon Shalom, you know what happens? Walls come tumbling down. Sometimes in situations where you can't extricate yourself, where you are imprisoned, daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and something amazing happens. The Gemara says, Boi rachami, parek ashisa, walls come tumbling down. Sometimes only when you fully give yourself over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because you can't do anything, then and only then does HaKadosh Baruch Hu show you a way forward. So incredible. So he goes to the swamp. So the Gemara says, what happened? Yosef Agirda Didikula. So he's sitting on a stump in the swamp. The Kagaris, and we'll say, so what is he doing on the stump? He's learning. The Gemara will say, by the way, I just want to point out to you, one of the reasons why it is so incredibly important to learn, and to learn a lot, is so that Torah is part of it. So we'll say, here's what's incredible. What Svarim does Rabbah have with him? What Svarim does he have with him? Right? 0. The good news is he had a lifetime of learning Torah. So even though he did not go ahead and have any Svarim with him, his Torah was with him, and he was able to learn even without a Svarim. So I remember I had a Rebbe in 5th grade who forced us to memorize Mishnayos. Literally forced us. Like it was unpleasant. It was unpleasant, right? And he said, I'm telling you, this will be the best thing you do in your life, because if you memorize these Mishnayos, then at the end of the day, even if you're in a time in life where you have nothing with you, you'll always have these Mishnayos. So I'll tell you something amazing. So it was 5th grade, Maseches Sukkah. To this day, I remember those Mishnayos. I met this Rebbe a number of years ago, and I thanked the professor. I said, I did not like you at all the time that I had you, but you had one of the most profound experiences on my life, right? Because I remember again, literally Mishnayos. And also, I can't tell how many times in life where, again, I've been stuck somewhere. And again, this is before the days of smartphones, right? Where you could go ahead and just, Baruch Hashem, one of the incredible applications is you could pull up Kala Torah Kulu, which is incredible. But the idea of having some Torah that is embedded in your mind, so that should you find yourself somewhere without anything, including cell service, that in Metzia Hashem that you could learn, it's the greatest gift. It's the greatest gift, and it's something to think about committing something to memory, so that no matter where I am, I have that Mishnah, I have that pasuk, or even I have that idea that I can chazer over in my mind. So literally, again, Rabbi's sitting in a swamp, and because he has Torah as part of who and what he is, therefore he's able to learn. What happens? So the Gemara says incredible. So just so you understand, like the split screen over here. So Rabbah is sitting in the swamp, having escaped from the king. He's sitting on a stump learning Torah. Meanwhile, in Yeshiva Shalmala, in the celestial sphere, they have a machlokes. What's the machlokes? We'll say first white line. In Baharis Kodem, it's Seir Lav and Tameh. We'll say it's Saras machlokes. So the way it works with Saras is if you have a Baharis. Baharis is the name of a particular type of skin lesion. If the Baharis comes before the white hair, then you're tamei. Vimser lavan kol dem lebaharis. But if the white hair comes before the baharis, tar safek. What happens if you're not sure which one came first? What's talacha? Hakadosh Baruch Hu omer. Rabbi says incredible. This is machlokes. Hakadosh Baruch Hu omer tar. The Rebbe Shalom says you're tar. The kulu mesifta d'rakia amri tamei, and everyone else says you're tar. Rabbi say there was a machlokes between Hakadosh Baruch Hu and the Yeshiva Shalmala. Hakadosh Baruch Hu says in a case of safek you're tar, and everyone else in the Yeshiva Shalmala says that's your tabe. Who should decide this? It's incredible. I don't know. I thought HaKadosh Baruch Hu always wins the day, but apparently not in Torah. So who should be the deciding vote? So the Gemara says, Rabba Bar Nachmani. So Rabbi Nachmani said, so they said in Yeshiva Shamala, we need the opinion of Rabbah. We need the Rabbah is the expert in Saras. We need him to weigh in on this. Only one problem. In order to go ahead and weigh in on a machlokes in Yeshiva Shamala, where do you have to be? In the Yeshiva Shamala. The only way to get to Yeshiva Shamala is if you're dead. Rabbi Bar Nachmani, however, is alive. So how do we get him to go ahead and weigh in on this? So Shadru Shlicha Basrei lo havi matzi malachamavas lemikravle midalo hava kapasik pume migirsei. So Rabbi says, so what happened? So they sent an agent, specifically the malachamav. Why? Bring Rabbah to Yeshiva Shamala. That's it. We need Rabbah here. We have machlokes HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Yeshiva Shamala. We need him here. Bring him. What was the problem? What says incredible. The Malach HaMaves could not take the soul of Rabbah. Why not? He wouldn't stop learning. What says Gemara Masechah Sota that the power of Torah is migna umatzla. The power of Torah is that Torah protects you and it saves you, right? Ultimately, it protects you against suffering, and it saves you ultimately again from the Malach HaMaves. So the Malach HaMaves could not take Rabbah. So what happened? The Gemara says, Ad halchin noshav zeka va'avish beni vanish beni kani savar gunda de parashu. So we'll say then what happens? The wind blew, the reeds started rustling. Rabbah thought that noise was the sound of the king's men coming to get him. Amar Teinach nafshe dehu gavra v'lo yimaser biyada de malchusa. So Rabbah said, you know what? I'd rather die than go ahead and be handed over to the king's men. So Rabbah says, so ultimately again, so now of course he stopped learning, and this was the opportunity for the Malach HaMaves to go ahead and take him. Rabbah say, this is incredible. Ki hava kanecha nafshe. Ultimately, again, as he was dying, his last words that he uttered were tahar, tahar. Now, we'll say, so as he was dying, he weighed in on the machlokes between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Yeshiva Shalmala. In a safek case, if you're not sure what came first, the Bahares or the Seir Lavan, the white hair, what's the halacha? So Rabbah said tahar. Paskening like the Ribono Shel Olam. So we'll say those are the last words that he uttered in this word, tahar, tahar. Yatzes Abaskal va'amra, Ashracha Rabbah Bar Nachmani, Shenafshechatar, the Yatzas Nishmascha. But I will say such a beautiful Gemara. So praiseworthy are you, Rabbi Bar Nachmani, that ultimately again your neshama is tahar, and literally again the last words that you uttered in this world were tahar. It's a beautiful Gemara. Nafal Piska Merakid Pumbedisa, Rabbi Bar Nachmani Nisbakish B'Yeshiva Shamala. Now understand, remember, Rabbah was on the run. So now the problem is, no one knew that he died. So the Gemara says, what happened? What did they do? A petek, a piece of paper, a note, fell from Shemaim into Pumbedisa saying, Rabbi Bar Nachmani was summoned to the Yeshiva Shamala. So we'll say, so that was they were told that he died. Nafku Abai v'Rabba v'Kula Rabbanali Suki Bey v'Lo Havi Yadi Duchte. So we'll say, here's the problem. Now Rav and Abaye wanted to go collect the body. They wanted to bury Rabbah. They knew that he died. They wanted to bury him. The problem was they couldn't find the body. What happened? Azlu la'agma, chazut sifri dimitali v'kaimi. So they went to the swamp. I guess they had heard that he had escaped to the swamp. And what happens? They saw that there was an area where there was a cluster of birds, almost like standing guard. Amr shmamina hasimhu. They said, oh, that must be that the animals are standing guard over the body of Rabba. So the Gemara says, Sabdua tlasi. So they found his body, they buried him. Sabdua tlasi yomi v'tlasi lelusa. They eulogized him for 3 days and 3 nights. I will say, so great was Rabba that they eulogized him for 3 days and 3 nights. Nafal Piska, another note fell from Shamayim, Kol HaPorish Yeh Benidui. Whoever leaves this Levaya will be excommunicated. In other words, the Shamayim, they were saying, Rabba Bar Nachmani requires such kavod. Sabdua Shiva Yomi. They eulogized him for 7 days. Nafal Piska, L'chul L'Baseichem L'Shalom. Then another note came down and said, okay, go home. Go home, right? You've done your part, you've done your avodah, you can now go home. Hahu yom denach nafshe zayle zafa v'dar lahu taya kirachav gamla mehai gisa dinar papa v'shaje bahach gisa. So I'll say the day that Rabba died, there was such fierce wind that literally again a wind caused the wave that picked up an Arab merchant and transported him from one side of the river to the other side of the river, or the wind transported him. Amr my high. So the merchant said, what is this? Amr le nachnafshe Rabba Bar Nachmani. Rabba Bar Nachmani died, and literally again the world is in turmoil. Amr le fanav Ribono Shalom kuli alma didach v'Rabba Bar Nachmani didach at dirabba v'Rabba didach amai kamecharves leila alma. So the Arab merchant says, Ribono Shalom, what is the problem over here? The world is yours, right? Rabba Bar Nachmani is yours. You belong to Rabba, and Rabba belongs to you. Why do you have to destroy an entire world? Nach Zafa, and the wind died down. Rabbi say, but I just want to point out something. Again, so much to say in all of these Gemaras. Rabbi say, but I just want to point out to you something. Rabbi say that phrase, At dirabba v'Rabba didach. Rabbi say, do you understand what it means to be able to say that? To be able to say, at the Rabba, that ultimately again Hashem belongs to me and I belong to Hashem. I say, do you understand that phrase? That's what we are striving for. In 120 years in this world, what do I want people to be able to say at my, what's the greatest eulogy somebody could deliver about you? At dirabba v'Rabba didach. For somebody to be able to say, this person, Kadosh Baruch Hu belonged to him, and he belonged to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Ani l'dodi v'dodi li. That represents a love. That represents an intertwining. So often in life, we suffice ourselves with just having like a casual relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sure, yeah, we're good friends. We know each other well. We're good friends. That's not what we're aiming for, I will say. I want to be in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I want to be intertwined with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I want anila dodi v'dodi li. I want at dirabba v'Rabba didach. That's what we are yearning for. As the Gemara goes weiter, Rabbi Shimon Chalafta bal basar hava. So we'll say, we're back to discussions about obesity. Remember again, we'll say that's how this whole thing started, right? That's how this whole thing started. So let's get back to that. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta bal basar hava. Rabbi Shimon Chalafta was an obese individual. Yom achat hava chamim alei. So we'll say one day it was very hot. Hava salik v'yasev ashina detura. He went and he sat down on the mountaintop. So the Gemara says, Amar lei lebarte biti hanifi alai b'menifa v'ani etein lecha kichrin denerd. So he said to his daughter, my daughter, do me a favor, fan me, right? Fan some cool air onto me, and if you do, I'll pay you. Right, I'll pay you. In other words, he said, I'll give you this aromatic spice. Pay me in it, right? Fan me and I'll give you this aromatic spice. So what happened? Adahachi nashpa zeka. I will say, before she got a chance to do this, a beautiful wind blew, right? A breeze blew. Amar kama kichrin denerd lemari dichi. How much do I owe HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Right? How much do I owe? I was going to pay my daughter for this wind, to fan me, and now again for this beautiful wind. How much do I owe HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I will say, by the way, a tremendous Musar Haskell about the beautiful things that we experience in life every single day, and how much hakar sov. I will say, you're right, you get a beautiful breeze. How much hakar sov you have to have for that? A beautiful sunrise, a beautiful sunset, right? I'll say we're often so focused on it's too hot, it's too cold, it's too humid, it's too rainy, it's too sunny, right? Sometimes just to take a step back and to recognize the beautiful things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu bestows upon us, just in the natural world, and to express our hakar sato for that. Incredible. Let's go back there. So I'll say back to Gemara. But don't worry, just for a minute, right? Remember again, we are learning Bava Metzia. So remember again, so remember again, the Mishnah said when you hire workers, both the duration of the workday as well as what you feed them, right, is all Kamina Gamadina. So Gemara says, Hakol asuyemai, lasuyeh ba'asra, dinagi michrach rifta, umishti anpika, di amar luhu, kadima va'aisi luhu, va'amar lo kol kaminach. So we'll say, I'll give you an example. Where does this come up? So the following. Let's say the minhag is to feed your workers before they work, right? Give them something to eat, then they get to work. And you say to your workers, you know what, guys, you get a head start on working, and I'll bring your meal to you. The workers have a right to say, no, we're not doing that. That's not the way it works. The way it works is feed us first and work afterwards. Incredible. Let's go weiter. So the Gemara says, so remember again, the Mishnah said that halacha l'maisa, if you hire workers and it's the minhag Medina to feed them, then you feed them. Then the Gemara told the story of Rabbi Yochanan ben Metzia, whose kid went out, hired workers, and the son said to his father, I hired workers and I agreed to feed them. So again, Rabbi Yochanan ben Metzia said, oh my gosh, what did you do? You're going to have to feed them even like a Suda Shlomo HaMelech. And even if you do that, you haven't discharged your obligation. So I don't understand. Meiser Lister, the story doesn't make sense. Because the Mishnah said, if the minhag Medina is to feed them, the minhag Medina is to feed them. So if that's the case, then what did Rabbi Yochanan's son do that was so wrong? So the Gemara says, they pasak lem mezonos. Rabbi say, now let's listen to this. Rabbi say, if you live in a locale where it's understood that you're going to feed your workers, so you don't have to say anything. Right? It's understood. If in the employment arrangement you say to them, by the way, and I'm going to feed you, what does that mean? You're committing yourself to even a higher standard. So the Gemara says, so in Pasak Lamizonos, if you explicitly agreed to feed the workers in a place where there's already the minhag Medina, Riba Lahen, that what you're committing to is even a higher standard of feeding them. So the Gemara tells, Rabbi Yochanan ben Metzia, Shamar Libno, Save Rabbi Yochanan said to his son, go and hire workers. Halachu Pasak Lamizonos. So the son went out, he hired workers, and he explicitly said to them, and by the way, I'm going to feed you. So now it was the minhag Medina to feed them. By mentioning again, I'm going to feed you, he was committing himself to even a higher level of support, of feeding. So the Gemara says, so Amar lo b'ni, afilu ata osalan kesuda shalma b'shayta liyatzei dechavas. Says, my son, now you've committed yourself to a higher standard. By committing yourself to a higher standard, again, there's no end, because now even if you give them a meal of Solomonic proportions, it's not going to be enough. Why? Shehein b'nei Avram, Yitzchak, v'Yakov. Okay, so it says the Gemara L'Meimra, the Sudas of Avram Avinu adifa midas Shlomo. So is that to say ultimately again that the Suda of Avram Avinu was greater than the Suda of Shlomo? V'Haksiv. But the Gemara said, but we learned in the pasuk. Listen to this. The Navi is describing the sheer volume, ultimately again of Shlomo HaMelech's Suudos. So the Gemara said, listen to this. Vayhi lahem Shlomo liyom echad shloshim kor solas v'shishim kor kamach asara bakar bariyim v'asara bakar rei umeat son levar me'ayol utzvi v'yachmor ubarburim avusim. So we'll say it's a lot of food, right? A lot of flour, a lot of animals, and again this was just the meal of Shlomo HaMelech. Va'amar Gurion ben Istion Mishmei Derav Halalu la'amilan shel tabachim. All of this, by the way, was just again to prepare the meal. Amilan shel tabachim literally means the dough of the bakers. We'll say this was just to prepare the meal. This was like the appetizer. Rabbi Yitzchak Amar Halalu l'tzikei kedera. This was all just to prepare one dish. Va'amar Rabbi Yitzchak Elef Shlomo had 1,000 wives. Kol achaz v'achaz astalo bebeisa kach. So we'll say, and again, this is what each of the wives prepared for Shlomo each day. You got this? This is what they prepared for Shlomo each day. Now we'll say, why did they each prepare this each day? So the Gemara says, my taima, zu svura shema etzli soid hayom, v'zu svura shema etzli soid hayom. So I will say, why? Each wife prepared a whole feast. Why? Because each one thought to themselves, what? Maybe the king will come to me. So they prepared a whole feast. They'll say, by the way, what a tremendous Musar Haskell. Right? Each of these women prepared these lavish feasts. Why? Maybe the king will come to me. And if there's a possibility that the king will come to me, I have to be ready. Each and every day, I'm not in doubt that the king will come to me. I know the king, the Melech Malchei Hamlachim, is going to spend the day with me. That's how it works day in and day out. And Rabbi say, if the king is going to spend the day with me, I need to be prepared. My life has to be in a state of preparedness. My home has to be in a state of preparedness. Myself has to be in a state of preparedness. These were the preparations for maybe hosting the king. Alachas kama v'kama, when I know I am hosting the king, the Malach Malchei HaMelachim, every single day. I have to make sure that my home, my personal home, the home of the self, or the literal home, is in a state of preparation to be able to host the Shekhinah each and every day. Overwhelming. V'ilu gabi Avram. So that's by Shalom Alach. V'ilu gabi Avram ksiv. V'ala bakar atz Avram. So we'll say by Avram Avinu, when he prepared the Suda for the Malachim, what did he prepare? Bakar, a cow, right? Vayikach ben bakar rach v'tov. From Rav Yehuda Amarav, ben bakar echad rach shnayim v'tov shlosha. Avram Avinu actually took 3 cows. Right from the pasuk, the Gemara says, "Tlasa turi l'tlasa gavri." He prepared 3 cows, 1 cow for each person. So the Gemara says, "So we'll say sahacha l'chol Yisrael Yehuda." Over here, so Avram Avinu is preparing 3 cows for 3 people. We'll say, so that's a lot. Shlomo Melech, as much as he prepared, the meal was for Gans Klal Yisrael. So we'll say, if you think about it, just on a proportion level, Avram Avinu prepared more than Shlomo. Right? Avram Avinu gave 3 cows, 1 cow per person. That's much more than Shlomo Melech is doing, because Shlomo is feeding all of Klal Yisrael. Shneimar, v'Yehuda v'Yisrael rabim kechol asher al sas hayam. So Gemara says that good. So everybody say. So it turns out that interestingly enough, that Avram Avinu's Suda was even greater, proportion-wise, ultimately again, than Shlomo Melech's Suda. Everybody say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to stop over here. First of all, shkoyach everyone. Excellent. By the way, I just want to point out, we literally did a blot, and more than a blot. We're actually ahead of the cycle, right, on some level, if you proportionally. So let's say, Metzia, don't worry, by the way, because if you looked ahead a little bit, Sunday morning, very short Amud Aleph, and tomorrow, Metzia Hashem, we're allocating an hour to the Shir Metzia Hashem. We're going to be just fine tomorrow. Also, ridiculously amazing Gemara. I will say, such a schos to embark upon this journey. Looking forward to extending into Shabbos. Shkoyach. All right, Chav Ranzum, have a good Shabbos, everyone.